The age of Shinobi is over. I can't believe you went this far, Kawaki.
I'm going to send you to the same place I sent the 7th Hokage, Boruto.
As the Hokage's son, Boruto carries the weight of his father's legacy, but he's also determined to forge his own path. What he doesn't know is that a shadow is looming over the Hidden Leaf village, threatening the peace his parents worked so hard to achieve. In this first arc of the manga, which is also known as the Versus Momoshiki Arc, we'll witness Boruto's journey of self-discovery, watch him encounter new allies and enemies, and also uncover secrets that will shake the very foundation of the Shinobi world. So in essence, I'll be explaining the Momoshiki Arc in depth, and that way hopefully everyone can get a better understanding of Boruto's story. Now with that being said, let's get into the video. As the story starts, we see an older Boruto standing atop what appears to be a partially destroyed Hokage monument, squaring off against a mysterious individual. Boruto then says he can't believe that Kawaki went this far, who then replied saying that he'll send him where he sent the 7th. Boruto then says that he figured this would be the only possible outcome, which is when we get a zoomed out shot of what was once a Hidden Leaf village, now destroyed. Kawaki then uttered the infamous line of the age of Shinobi being over, but Boruto seemed unfazed by this, as he then replied saying, even so, he's still a ninja. That's when Boruto activated a mysterious dojutsu along with a unique pattern spanning along the right side of his body, very similar to the pattern Kawaki activated on the left side of his body a few panels earlier. Boruto and Kawaki then charged at each other, but just as they were about to collide, we then switch back to present day or the past, depending on your perspective. This is when we see a younger Boruto observing his headband while affirming the fact that he is a ninja. The only difference is that at this point in the story, he doesn't seem particularly fond of the idea. He even says that back then he couldn't care less about being a ninja. He then asserts that this is his story, whilst also acknowledging that since he is the Hokage's son, he can't help that his dad ends up being involved. By the way, this view of Boruto's isn't unfounded, as we later find out that he doesn't have a good relationship with his father Naruto. He himself later states that his story begins when he was a brat who sulked about his dad not paying enough attention to him, which will be a core theme in this portion of the story. We then get a panel showing the Hokage's monument years before it will likely be destroyed, with Boruto once again informing the audience that this is in fact his story, except for just a little bit at the start. It's a story of him and his dad. Now, this is clearly Kishimoto trying to explain to the audience that while this is Boruto's story, Naruto will be very prominent in the first portion of it. And if you've been involved with everything Boruto since the story began, you probably understand why he thought this was necessary. Now, the story itself then continued with Boruto completing a well-known training exercise alongside the members of the current Team 7. We first find that Boruto is able to use the multi-shadow clone jutsu and heavily relies on it, similar to his father in the original series. Speaking of dads, this is where we're introduced to Sarada, who is the daughter of Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura. We also immediately got a peek into the personality of her character as well. This is shown by her being very protective, assertive, but also very level-headed, while Boruto on the other hand seems to be a bit more rash, reactive, but also very confident, very similar to his father at his age. And then we have Mitsuki, who we'll find out more about later on in the story. His personality is somewhat similar to Sarada's, very analytical, protective, but also more direct in a sense. With that aside, we then see Boruto and Mitsuki quickly rush in to disable the bear that was charging at them. Mitsuki then praises Boruto, saying leave it to the son of the 7th and the grandson of the 4th Hokage. Perhaps someday he'll even become the Hokage as well, which then prompts Sarada to proclaim that she's the one who is gonna become the Hokage. Now that goal is particularly interesting given the history of the Uchiha, which we later come to find out Sarada doesn't know much about. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. What happens next is that we're introduced to a now grown-up Konohamaru, who's apparently the captain of the current Team 7. Not only that, we see that Konohamaru has this device fitted to his hand that allows him to store jutsus in the form of scrolls, which then allows him to perform said technique without needing to train or master it. He later demonstrated how the ninja tool works by first laying out a scroll with special markings on it, then allowing it to absorb a Rasengan he created. He then inserted that same scroll into the device, which allowed him to immediately fire off the technique. This of course had Boruto and the other members of Team 7 stunned, whilst also excited at the prospects of what this could mean. We later got a montage of what the ninja world is currently like, years after the 4th Great Ninja War. The peace Naruto hoped to bring to the Shinobi world has been achieved for the most part, so the goal now is to maintain the peace they have attained. The woman interviewing Naruto believes that the way they do this is by ensuring that the younger generation is aware of the sacrifices that were made in order to attain the peace they now take for granted. This is when we find out that they are preparing for the genin participation in the Chunin examination, which is basically a test used to decide who displays the qualities needed to move up the ninja ranking system. Boruto, of course, is a part of this year's roundup. However, as was stated by Boruto himself, he's a kid who sulked about his father not paying attention to him, which is why Boruto constantly feels the need to prove himself to Naruto. He does this in this chapter by bragging about how easy it was to complete the mission and that he could have done it by himself. He also bragged about being able to manage 3 clones right off the bat with no training whatsoever, along with being able to use wind release, lightning release, and water release. However, instead of Naruto praising Boruto for this, it had the opposite effect, with Naruto angrily asking Konohamaru what he has been teaching them. This then prompts Boruto to tell Naruto to leave Konohamaru out of it. Though before Naruto could fully respond, Boruto then changed the topic to Naruto's presence as a father. He does this by informing him that it's his sister's birthday, and that Naruto better not forget. What this conversation subtly implies is that Naruto doesn't believe that Boruto understands what it means to be a ninja, nor does he share his values. Because in Naruto's eyes, ninjas are supposed to work hard for the power they attain, and also that they should value teamwork. That's why Naruto asks Konohamaru what he has been teaching them, since Boruto seems to be all about himself and has everything come to him pretty easily. While on the other side, Boruto feels neglected by Naruto since he's barely home and he has to remind him to be present for his own daughter's birthday. These conflicts play a very huge part in this specific arc, so you'll notice more of this as the story unfolds. We then later got introduced to Katasuke, who is the man responsible for the ninja tool Konohamaru demonstrated earlier. He came to ask if Naruto will allow the genin to use the device in the Chunin exams, as that will free them from undergoing grueling training and make their performance a bit more flashy. However, Naruto replies to this with a resounding no, saying that the Chunin exams is not entertainment, it exists to nurture Shinobi. Katasuke then takes his leave, but Boruto runs after him while telling Naruto that this isn't the lame era he grew up in, which again hints at the overall conflict. Boruto then has a conversation with Katasuke, who asks him if he's planning on taking the exams. Boruto initially says no, but then seems to be contemplating the idea once Katasuke says that everyone's looking forward to seeing his capabilities, including his father. We then switch over to Team 10, who is having a training session whilst also deciding if they should enter the exams. This team consists of Shikadai, the son of Temari and Shikamaru, Inojin, who is the son of Ino and Sai, and then we have Chocho, who is the daughter of Choji and Kari. And then we have the leader of this team being Konohamaru's former teammate, Moegi. Now at first these guys weren't too keen on participating in the exams, but after some stern motivation from their parents, they were more than happy to join. The scene then changes to Boruto hanging out with Inojin and Shikadai later that day, where he's presented with the sign-up sheet by Mitsuki and Sarada. They then inform him that they can't join the exams if he doesn't register, as it needs to be a 3-man cell. Boruto still declines though, but Sarada then grabbed him by the collar and reminded him that her dream is to become a Hokage, and then asked him if he's going to interfere with it. Boruto then immediately retorts, saying that he'd rather die than become the Hokage, which is weird since him participating in the exams or being the Hokage's son doesn't mean he automatically becomes the next Hokage, which Sarada later points out. Boruto then tells her that she's welcome to her dreams, but if she's gonna be the Hokage, she should stay single, cause she'll just inconvenience everyone around her. Sarada then looks at Boruto but doesn't respond. Inojin then interjects, saying that they'll need a third to move on there as well, and also that the next boss looks tough. What he's referring to is a handheld game they spend a lot of time playing. Boruto then gave his game data to Inojin and says he can win easily with it. Inojin then realized that Boruto's character is beyond maxed out and called it a cheat. Shikadai seemed a little bit annoyed by this, then leaves saying that the games are only fun because he can sneak around behind his mom's back to slowly gain more levels. This interaction foreshadows what's yet to come. Later that day, Boruto caved and decided to take the exams after Sarada told him how he could show Naruto how amazing they are. The conversation then moved to Sarada telling Boruto that he should be a little more understanding when it comes to his father, which Boruto then replied to, asking her about her father Sasuke, who Naruto said was the other Hokage. Mitsuki then hopped in, saying that his parent also said that Sasuke is the only shinobi in the world who's Naruto's equal in fighting ability. This left Boruto puzzled because, as we've come to realize, they've never met his parents. But just as Mitsuki was about to say something, they got interrupted by Hinata and Himawari. Hinata, of course, being Boruto's mom, and Himawari his younger sister by around 2 years. Boruto then later arrived at his home where he's welcomed by Naruto himself. This of course meant a lot to Boruto since he had reminded Naruto about Himawari's birthday, and he's glad to see that he made it. The festivities continued throughout the night as the family enjoyed each other's company. But just as Naruto decided to bring out the cake, he suddenly disappeared and the cake fell to the ground. This is when Boruto and Himawari realized that it was a shadow clone, not the real Naruto. This caused Boruto to get visibly angry, calling Naruto a loser, while on the other hand, Hinata tried to justify his actions by saying that Naruto works hard every day for everyone in the village, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't care about them. Boruto then lashes out, asking why does Naruto have to be the Hokage, reducing his work to just sitting at his desk and acting important. Anyone can do that. Hinata then interjects, saying that the job of the Hokage is very difficult and that it's a position crucial to the village. Even so, Boruto feels like Naruto doesn't know how fun it's supposed to be spending time with your family because he didn't have one growing up. He then later says that he'd rather not have a parent than one who is an Hokage, which causes Hinata to start crying. She then replied saying that he's right, that it's sad that his father isn't there on important days, but things are different for him and Naruto since he has a father who's still alive. Boruto then looks away saddened by the fact that his mother's crying, saying that it's not about him, but his sister's needs. We then briefly switch over to the Hokage office with Shikamaru bursting through the door due to Naruto collapsing on the floor. Naruto then says that he messed up again, which Shikamaru replied to saying that he's overtaxing himself and that he should go home and get some rest while he finishes up. We then later switch back to Naruto's house with Boruto entering his home office and viewing the photos Naruto has posted on his desk. After seeing one of his birthday photos when Naruto wasn't present, Boruto then got saddened once again, which causes him to pull Naruto's old jacket from the hanger and toss it through the window, saying that it's dirty and totally lame. Suddenly he hears the doorbell ring, so he then ran downstairs to greet the individual with a punch, thinking it was his father. That's when Boruto sees that the person at the door is actually Sasuke Uchiha. Boruto then immediately apologizes, and Sasuke then asks if he was Naruto's son, which means that this was their first time meeting each other. Sasuke then revealed that he's just there looking for Naruto, so as soon as Hinata told him that he was at the office, Sasuke then left. Though it does seem like Boruto took a liking to Sasuke's persona, which does hint at their relationship that will develop later on in the story. Now after this, Sasuke went straight to the Hokage office and passed along a scroll to Naruto, saying that it's a souvenir from Kaguya's dimension. That's when we find out that Sasuke is rarely ever in the village, since he's always out looking for more clues into Kaguya's past than just Yotsutsuki in general. Naruto then later states that he can't make out the language used in the scrolls, and neither could Sasuke using his Sharingan. He then later decides that this is too important, so he should probably work on getting it decoded instead of going home. That's when Sasuke presented Naruto with the jacket he found on the street, then says that he met his brat and that he's just like Naruto when he was a kid. Naruto then disagreed, saying that Boruto is different from how he was and he's closer to Sasuke, but then he corrected himself saying no, that's not quite it either. He then says that the clothes he wears are always crisp as if they're brand new. Guys like us, I guess we're behind the times. Sasuke then turns and walks away, saying that Naruto is wrong. Even if times change, the soul of the shinobi remains the same. Naruto then proclaims that he's the winner of this argument, as he doesn't believe that Boruto is anything like them, which prompts Sasuke to call him a babbling fool. Moments later, while Sasuke was walking down the street, he then gets attacked by someone using shurikens. That person is later revealed to be Boruto, as Sasuke teleports behind him and sweeps away his legs. Boruto then touts that Sasuke really is amazing and asks if he used to be Naruto's rival. Though before answering, Sasuke notices Boruto brushing off his clothing and remembered what Naruto said about his clothing always being crisp as if they are brand new. Even so, Sasuke still saw a younger version of Naruto in him, so when Boruto asked him to become his master, he didn't outright deny him. Instead, he asked him if he could form the Rasengan. If not, he can't become a student of his. Boruto of course course, being confident in his abilities thus far, said he will master it right away. It should be a piece of cake. That's when we get a quick shift to the conversation Sasuke had with Naruto after he provided him with the scroll he took from Kaguya's dimension. He then said that he ran into a weird duel where he found it. The scene then switches to what appears to be Kaguya's ice dimension, where it shows Sasuke engaged in battle. We first see Sasuke clashing his lightning release cloak sword against what appears to be an ogre's club wielded by the enemy. Sasuke then tried to land a surprise kick, but it was easily blocked. The enemy then used the opening to swipe at Sasuke with his club, but Sasuke was able to evade it pretty easily. Though it didn't quite work out the second time around, as the enemy was able to smack Sasuke through the roof of the castle since he attacked him in quick succession before he could properly land. We later see that Sasuke was able to defend against the attack using his sword and was able to find his footing. Though the fight wasn't over as yet, as the enemy chased him outside, seemingly wielding new weapons he manifested using his own chakra. They both then repeatedly clashed their weapons together, none being able to bypass the other. Well, until Sasuke sliced off a portion of the enemy's horn. This then caused the enemy to get enraged, thus creating a brand new battle axe which he used to swipe at Sasuke. That's when, in the blink of an eye, Sasuke used his ability called Amenachitikara to switch places with a statue that was behind him, thus evading the attack. We then hear a voice in the distance say, "You were careless, Kinshiki." And that's when you get introduced to the main villain of this arc, whose name is Momoshiki Otsutsuki. Now, we didn't get much about his character at this point in time since all he did was acknowledge Sasuke's Renegon, so you'll have to wait a bit longer to learn more about him. We then switch back to present day where Sasuke says he suspects that they are both members of the same Otsutsuki clan as Kaguya, and that they should operate under that premise. Now that's when we switch back to Boruto's perspective, where he's more so focused on learning the Rasengan Sasuke tasked him with. The person teaching him, of course, is Konohamaru, who also mastered the technique at a young age similar to Naruto. Now if you watch Naruto, this is the same typical training as before, where you basically practice how to rotate your chakra in a water balloon causing it to burst, then doing the same thing to a ball made of rubber by applying more power, and lastly learning how to compress that power without bursting the water balloon this time around. Now Boruto did have great difficulty learning how to do this, as it didn't come as easily as the other techniques he was able to pick up on the first try. With that said, he still didn't give up and was later able to form a Rasengan, though it was on the smaller side. Filled with confidence, Boruto presented his newly formed Rasengan to Sasuke, who sadly wasn't impressed by it. He said that the jutsu was awfully small, he'd be hard pressed to call it a Rasengan. Boruto, who was then filled with rage, hurled the Rasengan at a nearby tree, then ran away from the scene. Now for the ones who actually read the original manga, you probably realize that the act itself of throwing the Rasengan is an insane feat, especially at his age. But what's most important here is that it appears that the Rasengan had disappeared mid-air. Yet for some reason, it still seems like he was able to reach the other side of the training ground to hit the tree, which Sasuke himself noticed. Now that being said, we also got a peek into Boruto's character, as Sarada points out that Boruto isn't usually like this. It's a miracle that he even made it this far, she said. Now this of course implies that Boruto doesn't normally train hard, since most things naturally come easy to him, though it also implies that he doesn't normally put much effort into things that he can't easily grasp. So this is somewhat of a new experience for him, which made him incredibly vulnerable, and that vulnerability was later taken advantage of. You see, Katasuke has his own ulterior motives of getting publicity for his ninja tools, and he also knows that Boruto craves attention from his father. So what better way to kill two birds with one stone than to have Boruto himself use the tools during the exams, then take credit for it. It's a win-win situation. That's why he then decided to take Boruto to his lab and showed him the Rasengan he's able to produce using the scientific ninja tool. This of course entices Boruto, who then decides to take one for himself. He then used it to produce a normal size Rasengan for Sasuke, who immediately picked up on it, but still decided to take on Boruto as his student. Though he did show his disappointment by noting that Boruto is indeed quite different from Naruto, which he hoped wasn't the case. Later that same day, Boruto asked Sasuke to tell him about his dad, which Sasuke replied to saying that he was a loud-mouthed idiot who insisted he was going to become the Hokage. Boruto then asked him if he had any weaknesses, to which Sasuke replied to saying that there are more than you can count on one hand. For one, he was once a loser, full of weaknesses, but he pulled himself up with his own strength and became the Hokage. So instead of the Naruto of today, you should study the Naruto of the past. The next day we see Boruto meet up with Sarada and Mitsuki, where they all pledge to win the Chunin exams, whilst also showing off the power they will use to topple the old generation. We then switch back to Momoshiki, who has apparently invaded the planet and defeated Killer Bee, who is also known as the 8 Tails Jinchuriki. Momoshiki then says, "Imagine that, the chakra chakra we seek in the form of a beast. Furthermore, it's in numerous pieces that are scattered across the land. This is but one such fragment. All well, it seems we'll have to retrieve them one by one. That's when you see the Eight Tails fire off a Biju bomb in an effort to destroy the entity, though it appeared to have been futile since Momoshiki easily absorbed the mass of chakra using the Renegon in his right hand. He then says perhaps a twofold return, and that's when you see Momoshiki form a massive Biju bomb using the Renegon in his left hand, which he then fired at the Eight Tails, thus causing a massive explosion. In the aftermath, we see that the Eight Tails has reverted back to B's humanoid form, and it appears that Momoshiki is using the Renegon in his right hand to absorb the Tail Beast chakra from his body, though it appears that he wasn't too happy with the amount of chakra he was able to procure. Kinshiki then chimed in saying that there is even a bigger chakra signal coming from a land not too far from here. I believe that it's likely the maximal chakra that we seek, that of course being the chakra of the Nine Tails sealed within Naruto. The next day we got the return of some beloved characters from the original manga such as Gaara and Kankoro. It appears that they are on their way to the Leaf Village to support the young ninjas they have participated in this year's Chunin exams, one of these ninjas being Gaara's adopted son known as Shinki. Now of course we'll get acquainted to the other members of the group when they become relevant to the story, but know that Shinki is the star of this group and he feels like the other village's ninjas won't be a problem for him. We then skip over to this Rock Lee looking character who's also preparing for the exams. Now he is the son of Rock Lee. Like shocking, right? Like no one would have guessed this by looking at the character, but we still have no idea who his mother is, so we're just gonna go with 10-10 for now. Now we're finally back to the perspective of the main protagonist, and he appears to be making some good progress while training with Sasuke, though he did get upstaged by Sasuke up in the difficulty of the shuriken training. Boruto wasn't sure how he was supposed to hit such a target, and Sasuke replied saying that what he did was just one example. There are likely countless ways to do it. Use your head a little, don't covet immediate answers. This of course is Sasuke trying to subtly dissuade Boruto from using the scientific ninja tool without revealing that he knows about it. Now Boruto seemingly got the message since he went home that day and pondered about whether he should use it during the exams, though we didn't get to see his conclusion since we immediately shifted to the day of the Chunin selection examination. Shikamaru, who is second in command to Naruto, and Sai, who is now the leader of the Anbu Black Ops, appear to be the ones leading the examinations. They then explain that the students will answer a yes or no trivia question, after which they are to move as a team onto the side they believe is correct. Now the question being, the Shinobi password that appears in volume 5 of the Shinobi strategic detective story are moon is day, mountain is river, and flower is nectar, yes or no. We then shifted back to Team 7's perspective, where we have Boruto saying that he has no clue what the answer is and passed the question on to Sarada. She then added that she only read to volume 4 and had no idea that there was a 5th volume. Mitsuki then chimed in asking if they should just give up, which Boruto replied to saying that they should at least give it some thought first. Sarada then asked Boruto which option he thinks her father would choose, which he replied to saying that he feels like Sasuke would say no since he doesn't seem that straightforward. He then asked her why she thought that was relevant, and she replied saying that she's choosing a different path from her father and becoming the Hokage, and that's when they all decided to go with yes as the answer. Later on we see that they've all been grouped based on the answer they chose. Sai then said that those of you who are incorrect, that is who will turn black and not be able to advance. We then see that instead of one group falling into the pit, both sides began to fall instead, as it appears that no one got the correct answer. Most of the young ninja ended up falling into the black ink, while Shinki was able to save himself and his teammates, along with Mitsuki saving Sarada and Sarada saving Boruto. Though what's interesting to point out is that as they were about to fall into the ink, Boruto thought about using a scientific ninja tool to save himself, but ended up deciding to give up instead. Sarada then points out that the quiz was a sham from the start, since there really wasn't a 5th volume. Shikadai then seconds this by saying that the point is not to turn black by showing the fruits of their training. Sai confirms this, saying that those who lacked courage simply accepted the impending pool of ink. You made the wrong choice and allowed yourself to fall in, so you simply aren't qualified to become Chunin. He then says that the real decision in the first round is the split second one you make when you're cornered. Do you give up or do you not give up? Those of you who didn't fall into the ink are correct, and with that, round 1 of the Chunin exams is concluded. Later that same day, we see that Shikamaru relayed the news to Naruto that Boruto's team made it to the next round, though Naruto seems a bit disinterested and just replied saying, "Ah, Okay. Shikamaru then asked him what's with the sour expression, things not going well at home. He then told Naruto that he's no one to talk, but he should at least say something to Boruto. Speaking of Boruto, we later see that he's still pondering whether or not he should use the ninja tool if it comes to it, which is when he received a message on his computer from Naruto saying congrats on passing the first round. Good luck with the next one. Boruto then says he sends an email, not even a shadow clone? Stupid old man. Though Boruto did crack a smile, which shows that he still appreciates the gesture. The next day we see that Boruto still hasn't quite gotten the hang of redirecting shuriken. He then lashes out at Sasuke saying that the shuriken jutsu is Sarada's specialty because she's his daughter and has Uchiha clan blood in her. Sasuke then proceeded to spawn 8 shadow clones, and then he asks Boruto shouldn't this be his specialty, which is referring to the fact that this is the specialty of his father Naruto. Sasuke then says he won't allow any more excuses. Naruto can put out over 1,000 shadow clones. This then resolves Boruto to say that he will play an active role in round 2 of the examinations. Later that same day, we see that Boruto is tasked with guarding his team's flag during the capture the pennant round of the exams. We see that he's still able to use the shadow clone technique as he was before, but he himself points out that 4 is still his current limit. As for the other relevant teams, it appears that Team 10 was able to secure the victory, and so was the team from the Hidden Cloud Village, though it appears that Metal Lee's team lost to Shinki's team from the Sand Village. With that being said, we see that Boruto's team is up against the Hidden Mist Village. It appears that their plan is for Boruto to guard the pennant while Sarada and Mitsuki captures the pennant of the enemy team, though that proved to be difficult for Boruto since the enemy consisted of triplets who also possessed the ability to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu as well. Suffice to say, Boruto was outnumbered and easily overwhelmed by the enemy team. At that point, there wasn't much he could do, and as the enemy team inched closer to securing victory, Boruto remembered the message he received from Naruto congratulating him on passing the first round. He had finally gotten the acknowledgement he wanted from his father, so he couldn't allow himself to fail right now. That's when Boruto decided to use the jutsu he stored within the ninja tool to form a massive tsunami washing away the enemy. He then sealed the deal by adding lightning release to the water-soaked enemy, thus completely frying them and knocking them out. Sarada then used their Sharingan to locate the enemy's real pennant, thus securing victory. Later that same day, Shikamaru once again relayed the news of Boruto's team securing victory and also informed him that Shikadai's team advanced to the final round as well, so they might see a battle between their two sons. Now initially, Naruto didn't react to the news in any sense for some reason, but later cheered once Shikamaru left the room, which shows that he actually does care but doesn't want to show it for some weird reason. Now later that same night, Sasuke then met up with Naruto and informed him that the decoding of Kaguya's scroll is giving them trouble. Naruto then says that he hears that Sasuke is training his son, and then later acknowledges that maybe Sasuke was right that the soul of Shinobi does remain the same. Sasuke then smirks and says that's what he believes. We then switch to Boruto arriving home and being congratulated by his mother and sister. He then runs up to his room and closed the door behind him. Moments later, Naruto himself, not a shadow clone, knocked on his door and entered the room. Boruto is shocked of course because this normally doesn't happen it seems. Naruto then says that he heard Boruto passed round 2. Boruto replied saying yeah, which is followed by a short period of silence. Boruto then got annoyed and asked him if that's it, could you leave? Naruto then paused for a moment and then told him that he did well. See you later then. Boruto stopped him and asked again if that's really all he came up here to say. Naruto replied saying, well, it's important, you know. Really important. He then offers Boruto a sign of acknowledgement in the form of a fist bump, then told him not to lose to Shikadai. We can see that Boruto wanted to return the gesture, but he was afraid that Naruto would notice the ninja tool on his wrist, so he just said of course not instead. Naruto then smiled and bumped Boruto on the chest instead, saying that he'll be watching. Now as soon as Naruto left the room, Boruto then started to smile and cry due to the immense joy he felt from finally being acknowledged by his father. Now the final round of the exam is here and the first matchup is Boruto versus Yuri of the Hidden Cloud Village. Of course this is a knockout match, so if you lose you drop out, if you win you proceed to the next matchup. It's pretty simple. Now the fight itself kicks off with Boruto and Yuri clashing their weapons together. Boruto then dodges a swipe from Yuri and Yuri then blocks a shuriken thrown by Boruto. This then went on for quite a bit with Boruto dodging another attack and Yuri blocking another strike from Boruto's kunai. Yuri then spits out a bubble which then exploded the moment Boruto decided to touch it. This then sent Boruto flying back a short distance, but he was able to recover pretty easily. Though when Boruto looked up, the entire battleground, the entire battlefield itself was filled with bubbles, thus posing an issue with actually making contact with Yuri. Boruto then paused for a moment, then looked up at his father watching him from above. He then remembered how his father finally acknowledged him the night prior, so to him he couldn't afford to falter before him. That's when he decided to use the ninja tool to use what appears to be a wind enhanced shuriken, which he then threw at Yuri, curving around all the bubbles and popping the one closest to Yuri's face, thus causing him to get knocked out by his own jutsu. Now Sarada had her quick matchup, which he easily won off screen for the most part based on what we've seen, and we also see that Shikadai defeated a member from the Sand team, Inojin lost to a member from the Sand team, and Chocho was defeated by Shinki. Oh, and Mitsuki off screen, this random guy who I can maybe identify by watching the anime, but he clearly isn't that important, okay? Now speaking of importance, we're finally on the semi-final match between Shikadai and Boruto, which is when the story really ramps up. So the battle begins with Boruto using the shadow clones to maneuver around Shikadai's shadow paralysis. He then does what appears to be a backflip and lands next to Shikadai, and this is then followed by a strike in quick succession. Though Boruto did fail to connect the hit since he got caught by Shikadai's shadow paralysis, which is absolutely tragic. Now this then led Boruto to pop in the ninja tools once again, which manifested in over 20 plus shadow clones. By the way, Boruto did this with the ninja tool, right? And he did it with one hand. I want you guys to understand how proficient you need to be to pop multiple shadow clones, not just one, with one hand, right? Only the most prolific users of most jutsus are able to even do this. So Boruto thinking he can get away with it was absolutely insane, but he didn't really get away with it, so I guess it makes sense. But yeah, before we get to that, Shikadai did give up because he doesn't really care about it, and Boruto was later declared the winner. So yeah, discard anything I said before. Boruto won the exam, celebrated with his family, and got promoted to Jonin. The end. Just kidding. The story is actually just beginning, which is something I said over 5 minutes ago, but I just realized that this is when I should have said it, so you know, you get what I mean. Now what's different this time around is that Naruto noticed that Boruto cheated using the scientific ninja tool, and let me tell you man, bro was pissed. Like, look at Naruto bro, this man's about to get arrested by CPS. This isn't safe, okay? Now before we get to what goes down next, we see that Sasuke is speaking with the data analysis team, and it appears that they were able to decode Kaguya's scroll. Sasuke then says that their suspicions were indeed correct and that he'll give the information to Naruto. We then switch back to the examination ground where it shows Naruto approaching Boruto. Boruto then gleefully asked his father if he saw what just happened, and also proclaimed that he's now in the finals. Though instead of bumping fists with his son, Naruto then grabbed him by the hand instead and revealed the ninja tool hidden beneath his clothing. Now just as this was happening, we see that Momoshiki and Kinshiki are on their way to the Hidden Leaf village. Kinshiki then says that he can sense multiple large chakra in one place, and Momoshiki confirms this by saying that he can also see them. Momoshiki then says, "We're coming, just you wait, fox." And that's when the perspective shifted back to Naruto holding on to Boruto's hand. He then said that he banned the use of scientific ninja tools in the exams, because using it instead of your own chakra defeats the Chunin exam's purpose of nurturing new shinobi. He then announced that Boruto has been disqualified for using a prohibited ninja tool and amended the winner to Shikadai. Not only that, he also removed Boruto's headband after telling him that he's not worthy of being a ninja. He then told Boruto that he would lecture him later on, but Boruto lashed out asking him if he's sure he has time, because if he had lectured him before, he wouldn't have been in this situation in the first place. That's when the guys who made the tool appeared on the stage, trying to promote the device using the feats Boruto displayed during the examination. Though this ad campaign was short-lived, since that's when Kinshiki came crashing into the exam's platform. He then immediately slammed the ground with his fist, causing a shockwave to start crumbling the entire arena. The other Kages and Jonins then quickly sped into action, protecting thousands of civilians from falling debris. Naruto is then sent flying into the other side of the arena after Momoshiki silently landed behind him, catching him off guard. Sasuke then arrives in the nick of time, saving Sarada from a falling platform, but is immediately spotted and attacked by Kinshiki Otsutsuki. Kinshiki then says that it's payback for the horn Sasuke shortened, and Sasuke replied saying, "I see, the length isn't to your liking, you wanted it shorter?" Kinshiki of course is enraged by this and then says, "That smart mouth of yours, I think I'll silence it forever." And that's when we switch back to Momoshiki heading towards Naruto. Boruto then attacked him using all the jutsus he had stored within the ninja tool, but Momoshiki just absorbed them using the Renegon in his right hand. That is then followed by Naruto swooping in to save Boruto before Momoshiki could act. It then appears that Momoshiki attempted to fire an attack using the Renegon in his left hand, but he's then stopped by Shikamaru using Shadow Paralysis. Oh, and by the way, Shikamaru isn't just holding down Momoshiki, but also Kinshiki at the same time, so the feat itself is actually pretty insane. With that said, the feat was short-lived since Momoshiki was able to absorb it using his Renegon. They all then got together and Sasuke confirmed with Naruto the identity of the two entities. He then went on to say that they finally decoded Kaguya's scroll, and the gist of what it says is a warning of this pair's invasion. They're actually after the chakra fruit, so in other words the Biju chakra inside you. He then noted that they plan on making pills from the chakra fruit itself, something like a medicine that can increase power and extend life. Momoshiki then chimed in saying, "Oh, you even know about the pills? What a surprise. Well then, you understand how remarkable these are. With these pills, one can instantly, effortlessly, and easily acquire true power." Naruto then replied saying, "You mean you're cowards who rely on doping? That ain't true power at all." Momoshiki then says, "You inferior creature. Fine, here. Experience it for yourself." That's when Momoshiki consumed the pills he created using the chakra of the Eight Tails, which he then used to create a massive Biju bomb surrounded by the elemental ninjutsu he absorbed from Boruto moments earlier. Boruto then created a shadow clone with the intention of protecting Sarada, since he feels responsible for amplifying Momoshiki's power. By the way, just one of these jutsus were able to wipe out a huge portion of the arena upon impact, though no one was damaged or killed in the attack itself, since Naruto protected all of them using his clones and the power of the Nine Tails. Boruto was surprised by this since he never saw Naruto use this form before, let alone display this amount of power. Sasuke then added his power to Naruto's avatar since he knows that if Naruto goes down, it's all over. However, this wasn't going to last as long as they thought it was, because Momoshiki began to constantly bombard them with attack after attack until the effects of the jutsu started to bypass the Kurama avatar, thus affecting Boruto's shadow clone. Momoshiki then decided to call it a day, I guess, by hurling the Biju bomb itself at Naruto, who later tells Sasuke to take care of the kids. He then taps his stomach, telling Kurama that it's playtime and he better not be out of shape. Kurama then replied saying that's his line, and then says let's hit them with all we've got. And that's when we get this awesome panel, or these awesome panels of Naruto charging up, thus manifesting a large Kurama avatar, which he then uses to catch and push back against Momoshiki's attack. We also see that he planned on destroying the attack itself using a smaller Biju bomb of his own, which he then decided to swallow. Sasuke then comments that Naruto could easily obliterate that thing if he wanted to, well, alongside the entire arena and everyone in it. Momoshiki then noticed this as well, saying that you're planning to use your own body as a shield and absorb all the damage yourself? What a foolish, stupid idea, appropriate for an inferior creature. That's when we switch back to Boruto, who is looking on to Naruto in awe of his amazing strength. He then remembers what Sasuke said about how he was once a quintessential loser full of weaknesses, but he pulled himself up with his own strength and became the Hokage. Instead of the Naruto of today, you should try to study the Naruto of the past. Naruto then looked back at Boruto and smiled, which is then immediately followed by a massive explosion. Boruto then later woke up in what appears to be a clinic, and he's surrounded by Mitsuki and Sarada. He then rushes over to check on his mother and sister, where he finds out that Hinata was injured while trying to stop Momoshiki from taking Naruto away. That's when it finally started to set in that his father was no longer there, and he probably wasn't even alive. Boruto then ran outside and fell face first after tripping over what appears to be a medical kit. He then angrily removed the ninja tool from his wrist and then tossed it aside. He later went to the Hokage office, where he started to remember all the things he said about his father. He doesn't understand how fun it's supposed to be to spend time with his family because he didn't have one growing up. Why does my dad have to be the Hokage? All he does is sit at his desk and act important. Anyone can do that. He then picked up Naruto's old tattered jacket and wore it before the dressing mirror, saying that he's totally lame. Sasuke then entered the room saying that he's absolutely correct. Your fraud was exposed. You were scorned, even stripped of your headband. You can't even call yourself a ninja anymore. And you've lost your father on top of that. Such a similar circumstance to Naruto's long ago, except you still have your mother and sister. Boruto then asks Sasuke what did his father do in these times. Sasuke then says it appears that you finally want to learn more than just his weaknesses. Well then, you should ask him yourself after we rescue him. I can sense his chakra, so he's definitely not dead at the very least. Boruto then asks Sasuke why he's bothering with him so much. Sasuke then replied saying it's because you're my #1 student. You are a strong ninja, the real you that is. If you put your mind to it, you'll likely surpass Naruto one day. Though Boruto thinks Sasuke is exaggerating, but Sasuke reaffirms this by saying that he will since he's Naruto's son and his student. In addition to being a bigger buffoon than Naruto, in that they both hate losing. That's when the other 4 Hokage stepped up saying that they'd like to assist in saving Naruto. They also point out that Boruto looks very similar to a younger Naruto while wearing his jacket. though Sasuke points out that there's one thing missing which isn't revealed as yet. We then skip to Sasuke opening a space-time portal using the ability of his Rinnegan. He then later says that they'll use it to get to Naruto, but he can only take a few people with him. Though just as they were about to leave, Hinata, Sarada, Mitsuki, and Sakura arrived at the scene. Boruto then slowly, and I mean slowly, tied what appears to be Sasuke's old headband around his forehead. And that's when Hinata first saw Naruto in Boruto, which caused her to put her faith in him, telling him that she'll leave Naruto in his hands. Boruto then used what I call the fist of acknowledgement, and Sasuke chimed in saying Boruto is finally acting like a ninja. Now Boruto then tells Sarada and Mitsuki to look after everyone in the village, and later jumped into the portal with Sasuke. We then open to what appears to be a different dimension where Momoshiki has Naruto tied to what appears to be a divine tree while absorbing the chakra of the Nine Tails. He comments that his chakra is ridiculously enormous and it's taking too long. Naruto then replied saying, sorry about that. You see, we ninja don't like to make things easy, which implies that Naruto's resistance is why it's taking so long. That's when all of a sudden the branch holding on to Naruto gets slashed, which is then followed by Dari's descent towards Momoshiki. Though the attempt was easily dodged by Momoshiki and so is the attack Chojuro intended for Kinshiki. Momoshiki then notes that they must have used the Black Cape's Rinnegan, which of course is referring to Sasuke. We then later had Boruto jumping in, freeing Naruto from the vines, tying him to the branch of the tree, and Sasuke catching him before he falls. The other Kages then decided to square up against the enemy, with Gaara and Dari taking on Momoshiki, while Koretsuchi and Chojuro face Kinshiki. While that's happening, Naruto noticed that Boruto is wearing his old jacket and asked him what he's doing there. Sasuke then chimed in, saying that a lot happened, and in short, he's become a ninja. Naruto then laughs and says it's like he's staring at his own shadow clone. Boruto then chuckled and asked him if it makes him look cool, and Naruto replied saying yeah, more than before for sure. Naruto then started to apologize for what happened before. But before he could finish, Boruto then said that things are fine just the way they are. Just whenever you get the time, tell me about your past instead of lecturing me. He then smiles while reaching his hand out to Naruto, and this time around Naruto takes it and says, I'm warning you, it's a really long story. Now we then switch to Sasuke fighting Kinshiki, and he seems to be having some bit of difficulty. They both first clash their weapons together as they did before. Sasuke then dodges a slash from Kinshiki's sword, but he's then caught by Kinshiki's left hook, which sends him flying into the divine tree. That's when Kinshiki senses an attack from behind and dodges it with relative ease. The attacker is later revealed to be Chojuro, who then comments that Kinshiki is very fast for his size. Kinshiki then angrily charged at him at full speed, but Chojuro managed to dodge the attack at the last second, though he wasn't out of the woods as yet, since Kinshiki sprung at him again, easily deflecting his sword and slashing him across the torso. However, before Kinshiki could land the final blow, Koretsuchi then popped up from the ground below and sent Kinshiki skipping across the map with a single punch. Sasuke then descended from the sky, swiping at Kinshiki's back with his sword amped by Chidori. This is followed by Chojuro pinning him down using what appears to be this blood mist bone technique, but it appears to be made of chakra. Anyways, he was then finished off by Koretsuchi using her sealing jutsu to restrict his movements. We then switched to Momoshiki flying away from Dari and Gaara, though it seems like Dari is the one doing the attacking while Gaara is just providing foot support for Dari to be able to reach Momoshiki mid-air. He then catches up to him and swipes at Momoshiki, but he was able to react and block the attack using one of his rods. Naruto then pops up attempting to use his Shadow Clone Jutsu, but Boruto reminds him that they can't use ninjutsu against Momoshiki since he has the ability to absorb chakra. Sasuke then lands before Momoshiki, saying that it's simple. You can absorb others' jutsu and then use them as your own attacks, but the ammunition is gone once you use it, right? Just like these scientific ninja team's toys. The Kages then chimed in, saying that it makes it easy. We proceed without using jutsu and take you down with brute force. Momoshiki then looked at Boruto, saying, is that your child, Fox? He then activated his Byakugan and said, I see. It seems you're burdened by a rather interesting fate. What a pity, Fox, that you possess so much power yet not the jutsu to pass it down to the next generation. Let me show you how my clan does it. He then pointed his Rinnegan at Kinshiki, which caused him to be pulled towards him, whilst also transforming into a chakra fruit. Sasuke then swooped in trying to stop him by swiping at his neck, but it was too late. Momoshiki already consumed the fruit and began transforming into his evolved form. What emerged was a more powerful entity who now possessed a third Rinnegan on his forehead. Now Momoshiki didn't waste any time whatsoever. he first let out a massive shockwave that easily cut through the divine tree itself. This is then followed by Momoshiki blitzing Dari, sending him crashing into the root of the divine tree, then went after Gaara, who was able to block his initial punch using his sand, but it was then quickly dispatched by Momoshiki with a single kick to his side. Now the other two Kages could barely perceive what was happening. All they could see were the first two Kages falling one by one. That's when Momo appeared behind them in a cloud of dust, sending Chojuro flying with a single kick, while Koretsuchi was dispatched with a quick strike to the stomach. And with that, all the Kages, all four of them, were dispatched, leaving Naruto and Sasuke as the only active participants. Naruto then comments on Momoshiki's powers, saying, "I see. So you're just a completely different beast than what you were before. Or rather, maybe you're just a monster." Momoshiki then replied laughing, saying, "Oh come on, like you're not?" Momoshiki then charged in at full speed, trying to replicate what he did to the other four Kages, but to no avail. In fact, Naruto was able to block Momoshiki's initial attack, whilst also dodging the follow-up strike by Momoshiki's right hand. Though the third time was the charm in this case, since Momoshiki was able to send Naruto flying with a single follow-up kick. He then charged at Naruto, trying to land another strike, but Naruto was able to dodge him once again. He then appeared behind Naruto, trying to land a left hook, but Naruto quickly reacted to the attack and stopped him by entering KCM, or 6-path Sage Mode. This signified a shift in the battle dynamics, as Momoshiki was now the one playing defense. Naruto pretty much dominated Momoshiki by first knocking him back using his left elbow, then sending him flying with a single kick to his stomach. This is then followed by Sasuke appearing behind the distracted Momoshiki, sending him flying once again with a direct strike to his back. Even so, Momoshiki was able to quickly recover from the attack and then followed up with a jutsu that allows him to create chakra canines, and he apparently does this using the land itself. Now Sasuke was able to cut through most of them, but ended up getting caught by the last one. Naruto then swooped in, freeing Sasuke from the beast using the avatar of the Ninetales. Momoshiki then formed his own golem-esque avatar using the landmass around him, and then started to put up a challenge against Kurama. And though Kurama was able to block his initial punch, you can see that he was getting overpowered. This is then followed by the golem grabbing onto Kurama's neck whilst also squeezing it, which appeared to be affecting Naruto as well. Sasuke then stepped in, infusing Naruto with his own chakra, thus cloaking the Ninetales in the armor of the perfect Susanoo. They then easily destroyed the hand of Momoshiki's golem with a single hit, followed by them creating a sword from both their chakras and using it to slash Momoshiki's golem in half. The force of the attack then sent Momoshiki himself crashing into the ground, leaving him powerless and defeated. Boruto, who was watching all of this from a distance, commented on how amazing it was, which is followed by Naruto and Sasuke reverting back to their normal forms. After which the other Kages then re-entered the scene, with Koretsuchi saying that Momoshiki won't just give up, let's just finish him off with some flashy jutsu. Chojuro then chimed in saying, "Please don't say such reckless things." Gaara then added that if he was to absorb it again, we'll be back to square one. That's when the guys responsible for the creation of the scientific ninja tools came out of nowhere, saying that they made it in time. Dari then comments that they likely snuck in, which would be when Sasuke opened the portal just a few moments before. That's when the main guy, who has one of the tools with him, fired off multiple attacks at Momoshiki, hoping to get video evidence of his tools in action. What happened instead is that Momoshiki was able to absorb all of the attacks using his Rinnegan, then used its power to heal his body and refuel his strength. Not only that, he now has access to Shikamaru's shadow paralysis, which he then promptly used to restrict the movements of everyone on the battlefield. Also, for added measure, he then restricted Naruto's movements even further using his chakra rods, which means that he sees Naruto as more of a threat than anyone else. Now at that moment, it all seemed to be a bit grim, since Momoshiki had now begun to charge what appears to be a fire or lightning style attack, which he obviously intends to use to wipe everyone out. That's when we see Boruto off in the distance, pondering about what he should do. We then got a flashback to a conversation he and Sasuke had off screen, where he said, "There's a reason why I'm taking you along, even though they're dangerous. If the 5 Kage and I manage to defeat them, then it won't be necessary. But just in case we can't, if some of us get taken down, or worse, if all of us are in trouble, then you'll need to do it. Trust me and just follow the plan. This is something only you can do." Boruto then says to himself that he can't wimp out now. He has to trust in his teacher who believed in him. That's when you see Boruto form the Rasengan he was able to create on his own just a few chapters earlier. He then hurled the jutsu at Momoshiki, which surprised everyone. Now Momoshiki, on the other hand, didn't care much since he saw Boruto as insignificant, along with the fact that he could just absorb it. Though what ended up happening is that the Rasengan didn't even get to the point where it could affect Momoshiki. It's as if the Rasengan itself vanished mid-air. Momoshiki then said, "What a joke, it didn't even get close to me." "Well, don't worry, I'm going to send you to the same place." But before Momoshiki could finish his sentence, he suddenly got hit by an invisible force, causing him to lose focus, thus freeing the others from the shadow paralysis. Boruto then comments that it looks like he can't absorb jutsu that he can't see. Sasuke then followed this up by saying that I told him that I'd only take him on as a student if he mastered the Rasengan, and he managed to do it within just a few days' time. But the Rasengan was small and imperfect, and it vanished right after he released it. He had subconsciously transformed its nature, creating a brand new Rasengan, a vanishing Rasengan. After which Momoshiki chimed in saying, "Don't celebrate yet, you pieces of garbage, you've only delayed your debts." I'm just messing around. But he said, "Don't celebrate yet, you pieces of garbage, or you garbage, you've only delayed your debts." He then consumed the pills he created using the chakra he stole from Kurama, and then used it to power up once again. So he powered up like twice. And then Naruto asks Boruto to do it one more time, which is referring to the Rasengan. But Boruto doesn't believe that his Rasengan is strong enough to take down Momoshiki, though Naruto told him to still do it, and later added his own power to it in order to make it bigger and enhance its power. Now through this, it seems that Boruto was able to view Naruto's memories and saw all he had to go through to gain this amount of power. Boruto then started to cry, but quickly resolved himself to take down the enemy standing before him. Also note that I'm not sure if Boruto actually saw these memories, or if it's something just the reader could see. I say this because Naruto's memories also leaked out to the members of the Shinobi Alliance during the Fourth Great War, and that was because they all had a portion of Naruto's chakra. So it is indeed possible that a similar thing is happening here, but it could go either way. Anyways, Momoshiki then said that he could make as many as those as he wishes. He then proceeds to create what appears to be a large ball of condensed chakra, or you could just call it a Biju bomb, you know, whatever. Now Sasuke then led the charge against him by first dashing behind him, then throwing his sword, which narrowly missed the head of Momoshiki, and Sasuke then used a Menotechi Kara to switch places with his sword in an effort to catch Momoshiki from his blind spot. But Momoshiki quickly noticed him and sent him flying into the god tree with a single kick. It's then revealed that the sword Sasuke switched places with was actually Boruto's shadow clone, who had used the transformation jutsu. Due to this, he was able to destroy Momoshiki's Renegon that allows him to absorb chakra by somehow masking his kunai under his fist, which then tricked Momoshiki into thinking that it was safe to grab his hand. The real Boruto then sneaked up on Momoshiki from behind with the Rasengan Naruto enhanced in hand. Momoshiki then quickly reacted with his own chakra ball, colliding it with Boruto's, thus causing a massive explosion, sending shockwave across the entire battlefield. Now at first it did seem like Boruto was getting overwhelmed, to the point where his clothing started to rip apart along with sustaining severe burns. Even so, Boruto still charged ahead, finding the strength needed to destroy Momoshiki's chakra ball, then later Momoshiki himself. The Rasengan then caused a massive explosion, vaporizing the god tree and erased Momoshiki at a cellular level. Sasuke, seeing this, thinks to himself that he was right, that even if times change, the soul of the shinobi does remain the same, and also that Boruto reminds him of a younger Naruto. Sasuke then says to Naruto that he doesn't look so good, and Naruto then replied saying, "Neither does Sasuke." Sasuke then added that he shouldn't compare them since at least he's able to stand on his own. Naruto then asks Sasuke how long he's planning on acting like they're still rivals. Sasuke then says at least until he beats him soundly. Naruto then acknowledges that today does count towards the tally, since Sasuke was right about the soul of shinobi remaining the same. Sasuke then says, "I told you so, bumbling fool." So that's basically some slight banter between rivals, and that's it. Now we then switch over to Boruto, who is now atop the destroyed divine tree, when he suddenly started sensing something weird. That's when he heard a voice say, "You can sense me, human child." He then looks up and it's none other than Momoshiki himself sitting atop the divine tree. He then randomly says to Boruto that he sees that he carries some Byakugan blood, which does imply that he feels like that's the reason why Boruto is able to see him. Now Boruto then started to panic, trying to alert his dad to Momoshiki's presence, but that's when he noticed that his father was still. It's as if time has stopped. Momoshiki then appeared hovering behind Boruto saying, "I wasn't able to see my own fate, even with all my powers and the Byakugan. However, I can see yours quite well." Boruto then tried to escape but realized that he couldn't move while the phenomenon was happening. That's when Momoshiki imparted what appeared to be a prophecy onto Boruto, in which he said, "Beware, those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you. And know this, those who defeat gods cannot remain ordinary individuals. Reflect well upon thy fate as you walk it, human child." After which Momoshiki then faded away in a cloud of smoke. We then see that Sasuke was somehow able to perceive the event using his Renegon, but he decided not to say anything about it as yet. And that's pretty much where the fight ended. Now, several days after this, it appears that Team 10 is having some sort of conversation about the aftermath of the Chunin exams. Shikadai is just like his father, so he's just complaining about the amount of missions they've been getting, while Inoji notes that it's because someone did too well in the examination, which of course is referring to Shikadai. Shikadai then clarified that the reason why he tried hard is because he wanted to save face for his dad, and he also didn't want to lose to Boruto. And that's when Moegi, who is the leader of Team 10, I think I mentioned that before, she basically stepped in and said that's enough, and it's time to get ready for the next mission. Now later that same day, we see that Gaara and the rest of the Sand Village is boarding the train back to their village when Shinki stopped saying that he was thinking about Boruto. He then said that Boruto was foolish, reckless, and was just a trivial, low-level ninja. Yet he stood his ground against a mighty foe he couldn't hope to defeat and still took him down. Gaara then interjected, saying that he was the one who told him not to fight and held him back, which is referencing when Gaara told Shinki not to approach Momoshiki. Now Shinki then said that's not the issue. Permission or not, I had no hope of winning that battle. His teammates then said that if he goes up against Boruto, he'd definitely win. Isn't that enough? Shinki then thinks about it but doesn't respond. Gaara then added that he doesn't need to be impatient. From his point of view as a Kage, they've all just started their own paths. Focus on the road ahead, not the steps of those who walk beside you. You need to first learn that your shinobi way stretches far into the distance. Now the scene then switches to Boruto playing with his handheld game, only this time he isn't using the maxed out mod he got from Katasuki. He has instead decided to put in the work to get to the level he wants to be, though it proved to be very difficult. He then asked his mom if she finished fixing the tear on his jacket, and she confirmed that she did, but still asked him if he's sure he doesn't want a new one. Boruto then replied saying that he's sure and that it's cooler this way. Naruto of course overheard this and started to smile. They both then left out at the same time, with Naruto asking Boruto if he's off on a mission and Boruto telling Naruto to have fun at work. They both then did the fist of acknowledgement stuff and then went their separate ways. And that's where the story ends. Just kidding. Okay, cool. There's a bit more, just a tiny bit more. Okay, just stay with me here. We're almost done. So we have Boruto making the rounds, doing multiple interviews after he became famous for defeating Momoshiki. Now in one of his interviews, they asked him what he thought was the most important thing for being a shinobi. Boruto then replied saying that it's gotta be teamwork and the guts, but it takes experience to learn that. Now that's when we shift to Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki atop the Hokage monument, where Mitsuki comments that it has been non-stop interviews since it happened, hasn't it? And Sarada then added, even though you cheated. Boruto then says that he apologized for it over and over again and she should drop it. Mitsuki then says that Boruto really is worthy of being Lord Fort's grandson, Lord Seven's son, and maybe even the Hokage. This then prompts Sarada to ask him to be honest about whether he wants to become Hokage. Boruto then grins and says, no thanks. You're gonna be Hokage, right? Then I'll be your right hand man and work hard to protect you. He then added that just because his granddad and father was the Hokage, that doesn't then mean that he has to walk the same path. What he's aiming for is to become a shinobi like Sarada's dad, which of course is referring to Sasuke. Sarada then looked into his eyes and said that it's bluer than Lord Seven's, and that's when Boruto remembered the prophecy Momoshiki bestowed upon him, which refers to those blue eyes taking away everything from him. Boruto then removed the bandages that were used to cover his burnt hand, which then revealed a mysterious black marking on his palm. The art then closed out with Boruto saying, "Fate, I won't remain ordinary, bring it on. Whether fate or curse, go ahead and try interfering with my shinobi way. I never planned on being ordinary. After all, I'm a ninja. I said it before and I'll say it again, but this isn't a tale about a boy who wanted to become Hokage. That was my dad's story. This is my story." And that's where the arc itself wrapped up. So yeah, the arc itself is actually really good. This is like the first 10 chapters or so of the manga. So if you want to read it for yourself, just know that the Momoshiki versus arc is about chapter 1 to chapter 10 on Viz or Manga Plus. So you guys can go check it out. I will say that the arc itself was funnier than I remembered. You have a lot of jokes in there that I kind of removed because it really wasn't needed and the video is already longer than it needed to be. So I kind of just removed some of that stuff. But it's mostly about Chocho and Inojin just making fun of each other, which has carried over to TBV. But yeah, all in all, the arc itself was solid. I'm planning on doing like an arc review for every single arc of Boruto. I'm gonna do the manga first and then go to the anime because the anime has a lot more than the manga, so it's gonna take way more time to get through the actual story. So I'm probably gonna do the manga arcs first and then try to weave in the anime canon arcs later on. So yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing that, remember to subscribe and ring the notification bell to be notified when I post new content. And also, if you guys are interested in theory videos videos and power scaling. I also do those videos, and they're on the channel. I have like 247 videos about Boruto alone, so if you guys want to view them, you guys can go check them out after this video. With that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.